let's start talking.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm Tim Williamson,
And I'm Drake Totori.
and this is our first ever episode of the Bona Reform podcast. Here we're going to be talking about sensitive issues that students have to tackle every single day here at St. Bonaventure University.
We have been roommates since our freshman year. We got randomly paired together through the school system of what time do you shower, what time do you normally go to bed. And I came here, I didn't know anybody, and I'm sure it's the same for Tim. And so it's pretty scary first time you walk into the dorm room and there's this person you've never seen before and you're like, oh, holy shit, like this is my roommate now, we're living together.
Yeah, luckily we had a lot of community support on our floor. We lived on 3rd Rob, where we got to meet so many diverse personalities, and it was truly a community of learners there.
Yeah, it was a great time. Just such a wide variety of different characters, really, and also just the fact that, when you get there freshman year, you're all taking similar classes, so you're working together a lot, you're hanging out with these people a lot, having the open lounge to study together and work together. It made things a lot easier for us being the first time on a college campus.
Unfortunately, this is not the case for a lot of freshmen out there, is it?
Not this year. Not this year. It doesn't seem like it because of a lot of the COVID responses and the pandemic as a whole. But that's what we're here to talk about. The whole point of Bona Reform is to hear from you guys, hear from the students. If you check out our website, we spell it out pretty clearly, but Bonaventure is a university, it is a business. And any, business ethics course you take is going to say the same thing. The client's interests must come first. And, us being the students, we are Bonaventure's clients. We are their customers. So our interests should be coming first. And a lot of times it feels like, at least for us, and I'm sure for a few of you too, that the Bonaventure administration doesn't always have our interests first, and they don't always communicate their decision making with us. And sometimes it feels like our voices aren't heard.
Oh, absolutely. And I definitely say since COVID, there has been a diminishing amount of clarity and communication from the administration to the student body. I feel like I've never really known what was going on here with our administration or the pathway or direction that they are planning to go since March.
Yeah, it really seems like you just kind of sit around and wait for a notice board email to ambiguously describe what's going to happen next. And a lot of times it feels like empty promises. Last semester they told us after 2 weeks they would consider loosening restrictions. Specifically, they said that they would start allowing a 1-for-1 ratio. So if you were living in a dorm room, 2 people, you would be allowed to have 2 other people visiting in the dorm room with you. If you were a garden, 6 others, and a townhouse, 4 others. And they said, if things were looking good, that would happen after 2 weeks, and it ended up not happening all semester.
Recently reinstated that work group with that same membership to visit some of the questions and concerns regarding visitation and loosening of restrictions. And we will start meeting with that group early next week.
Really, it seemed like we didn't have any cases
No.
till November or
Especially
end of
when you compare it
October.
to other universities.
Yeah, a lot of other universities had much worse cases. It seemed like we were doing a good job, but we never, heard back about that promise from Bonaventure. And now it looks like we're kind of going through the same thing this semester.
Right.
They told us winter break after a week they would, start loosening these restrictions, do the 1-for-1 if things were looking good. The first pool test got done last week. It was found that only 1 person was positive out of 300. That's a pretty great ratio. I had over 80% compliance between the people who were asked to do the pool test, and still no word about that promise for the 1-for-1.
It almost seems like they're stringing us along.
It does. It feels like being strung along, especially because, again, it's so ambiguous. If you just say, well, if it looks good, we'll do it. But what looks good? What are those limits? What do we have to reach for those promises to be made, like an actual number, instead of just this ambiguous statement of if it looks good. What is good? Like what?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I took a strategic communications course where we learned all about how businesses need to communicate to the public, to their employees, to their clients. Well, we're the clients. You need to be clear, you need to be transparent, and they're not doing it.
Yeah, they're not, and it's, you know, again, it's disheartening for the students. I mean, today, disheartening loss, horrible loss,
That
St.
was
Louis.
tough. Real had some flashbacks to Barclays Center freshman year.
Freshman year at Brooklyn, we lost to St. Louis in the championship game for the A10 tournament. That was a killer. That kept us out of the NCAA tournament. So it was tough losing again. I mean, and killing the 7-0 streak we were on. But another tough thing is the fact that we can't go to those games. You know, it's really disheartening when the games are 100 yards away.
Oh yeah.
And we have to pull it up on a TV, go through all this, you know, have an ESPN Plus account, when a pretty decent portion of our tuition goes towards this team. And I feel like, you know, there are definitely ways to be able to get some students in there. You know, after some research, we saw that the A10 conference left it up to schools. They said, you know, it's up to the schools if they want to allow students. There are a few schools that are allowing limited numbers. I know New York State specifically has pretty rough policies, but, you know, it'd be great if we could hear from the school about those policies, or like maybe even sit down and have a talk about what we think could possibly work, like separating students throughout the stadium and stuff. And I think one of the biggest reasons we started this Bona Reform page is probably because we have all these questions, and you know, our SGA, our student government, they're supposed to represent us, and even if these questions have completely reasonable answers that make total sense, we should get those answers, and it feels like SGA isn't always asking those questions.
Right. And I mean, in regards to the Riley Center, it's hard to say that doesn't reduce the value of our tuition money, you know?
It does.
When so many kids, when you ask them, why did you come to St. Bonaventure? It was for Division I basketball, but it's more than that. It's Division I basketball with that small school community presence where you know everybody is your neighbor, but you have this big rallying cult following of this basketball team. And for the freshmen that came in this year that can't socialize, they can't go out in the lounge. I mean, they use the same toilets and showers as all of the other people on their floor, but the only people that they're allowed to have in their dorm is their roommate.
Yeah, it's horrible. Like we were saying, you know, Third Rob, that community, I mean, that's the reason that we love Bonaventure so much. That freshman year with those great people, like we have lifelong relationships with those people now, you know, and I feel horrible for the freshmen who aren't being given the same outlets that we were given. And, you know, the culture of Bonaventure, I mean, we are a cult school, you know. You see it all the time. The alumni basis is amazing. You know, they love to get involved. There's so many Bonaventure weddings. I love seeing Bonaventure weddings. Like, we're just a cult school, just 2,000 kids who freaking love the Bonnies, you know, and just live in the middle of nowhere, Western New York. But it's sad to see, and again, that's why we're starting this, because we want to hear from everybody else. We want to hear, especially from you freshmen. You know, you haven't gotten to experience what Bonaventure used to be like. You haven't seen a spring weekend or a keg clash. I mean,
sophomores haven't seen a spring weekend for that matter.
Yeah, I mean,
they got 1.5 semesters kind of.
Really, they're feeling it too, you know. So again, like, we really want to hear from you guys, and I guess just to get back to SGA. Like we said, you know, it feels like SGA isn't always asking those questions or getting those answers for us. So we've officially decided to run for president and vice president of the class of 2022.
President vice, baby.
So we would love, again, to hear what people think, hear what people's views and opinions are, and, you know, we can jot them down and see if there's a middle ground that all the students really just want to see get done.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. You can do that in a couple ways. You can either reach out on our Instagram at Bona Reform. You can go to our website, www.bonareform.com. Click the click here to be heard by, and boom, it will take you to a student feedback Google form where you can give us your ideas.
Yeah, so like I said, please reach out to us. Please tell us what you guys think, anything you want us to talk about. I mean, we'll dig as deeply as we can to find the answers and the details about anything that you guys want to hear about. So I guess one more thing before we cut this off is I just want to bring up Bonaventure Inc. So we're going to be largely supporting Bonaventure Inc., which is a nonprofit in Allegheny and is focused on strengthening the relationships between St. Bonaventure students and Allegheny Township. So this does go into like some Bonaventure policies that I personally have questions about and disagree with.
Who's Bonaventure?
So Bonaventure Inc. is named after the event Bonaventure, and Bonaventure is this big event that used to happen every year during homecoming weekend, all down Main Street, Allegheny. All the vendors would come out, they would have live music, they would have people cooking, making food. Landlords would be giving students tours of the houses to try and get tenants for the next year. And it was a really big, fun event. That's why you'll see the houses on homecoming, they put those bed sheets with like the, whatever on it, explaining the house. It's always fun. That started with Bonaventure. They would do that so when people were walking down the street, they see all the bed sheets, all the names of the houses and stuff like that. And about 4 years ago, I think it was the year before we were freshmen, Bonaventure pulled their funding, which was not a huge amount of funding. It was a pretty, I don't know, good number, I thought, for all the good things that it did. But they pulled that funding, and Bonaventure, the event stopped happening. So that was really sad, and that was tough on vendors in Allegheny, and it was tough on relationships between the students in Allegheny. And Allegheny kind of almost feels like an extension of campus. So really improving those relationships, we feel, is an enormously important thing.
Absolutely, not just restoring the community of Bonaventure and the campus, but reaching out into the surrounding community. I mean, we're business students. We know the Franciscan definition of love for the business school, to learn not just for the sake of accumulating knowledge, but to use that knowledge for the betterment of others. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna expand into the community. We're gonna do great things.
All right.
One more thing. If you have some great ideas and you would like to go a little bit further than just simply hitting the Google form or reaching out to us, and you would like to be featured on a podcast or interview, reach out. We'd love to set up a Zoom meeting. We could even do an in-person interview somewhere on campus. Obviously, masks would have to be mandated,
Yeah.
but that's something that we can do.
So yeah, please reach out, guys, and we appreciate all your opinions and any support. So thank you.
Thank you.